Public CEO Report is a podcast that provides insights about the public sector and public policy for the benefit of decision makers and leaders powering our communities. I'm your host, Ryder Todd Smith, and today we're joined by Santa Barbara County Public Works Department Public Information Officer and CAPIO President, Lael Wageneck. Lyle, welcome to the Public CEO Report.
Thank you for having me, Ryder. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you on as well. You and I have gotten to know each other a bit through CAPIO, so this is a personal conversation for me. It's not you and I have the benefit of having met you and chatted with you on a few of the projects you work on in beautiful Santa Barbara County. Today, though, we're talking about CAPIO. By the way, what does CAPIO stand for?
CAPIO is the California Association of Public Information Officials.
Okay, so officials, not officer. Is there a reason why you chose officials as opposed to officer?
That's a Scott Summerfield question, actually, because it used to be SCAPIO, because it was just Southern California, and then they dropped the S when it went statewide. But he would know that question.
All right, I'm going to guess it's just more inclusive because there are the official title of PIO officers, but officials could be any number of people who work in the profession.
Correct.
So now at least know what CAPIO stands for. What's its mission? What are we doing at CAPIO these days?
So public relations is about building mutually beneficial relationships to get things done. So CAPIO does is we are dedicated to advancing public communicators through training, resources, and networking to get those good things done that strengthen and engage our communities. We have around 1,100 members, and they are communicators from school districts, cities, counties, special districts, PR firms, public safety, long list. And I think that's one of our major strengths is that diversity. And I think government communicators would be excited to be part of CAPIO because we just have a wealth of knowledge for members to draw from and to further people along in their career. It's also a great place to give back and for communicators to improve. And I just love CAPIO because of the people. It's great energy. In this field, work can be really hard. You get burned out and stressed out. And I know I have people in CAPIO that I can go to either get myself energized or to help kind of chill me out and help find a solution to whatever I'm working on.
Yeah. A few observations I'll make. Tripepi Smith has been involved. For those that are watching, I'm also president of Tripepi Smith. We do marketing, communication, public affairs. We're involved with supporting CAPIO. We enjoy our CAPIO partnership that we've had for multiple years now. I've been to the annual conferences with you all and some of your chapter events. Always been impressed. I think one thing I always reflect on is communicators, not always, but on the bell curve of humanity, tend to be more extroverts than the average person in society. So that doesn't mean all of them are, but it just makes for the conference to be a particularly dynamic environment because you got a lot of high energy people who feed off seeing a bunch of other people in a tight environment.
Definitely. And I'm actually one of those people on Myers-Briggs who I always end up half extrovert, half introvert. So CAPIO and running into people and talking to them really fires me up until it doesn't. And what's great at the conference is you can go back to your hotel room and be in complete silence for 15 minutes and then go back out and get energized.
Yeah. As my daughter says, recharge your social battery.
Yes. Yeah.
You mentioned 1,100 members. In my observation, CAPIO has had tremendous growth in its membership over the last few years. Can you give me some sense of that growth? And then just for context for audience, especially for people outside California, there are 482 cities in California, 58 counties or some such number. And then we got, 5,000 plus special districts out there between school districts and whatnot. So that's kind of the market for local government in California. And I guess to be fair, you even have state people from the state of California as well that are members of CAPIO, right?
Yes, so kind of an overview of our membership is I've been saying we're around 1,100 members because the membership fluctuates. I think right now we're at about 1,070. That is from all across the state. We have 3 regions, North, Central, and Southern. The ratio tends to be about, I think we have about 400 in North, 400 in South, and then about 200 in the Central region. And the breakdown, I think around 30% are special districts. So a lot of water district members out there. And then from there, it goes on to cities and counties. And then, I think roughly like 10% are probably from state agencies.
And so truly kind of full stack of communicators from across California. And just going back to that, I guess part of that question too, growth has been, I just feel like it was 5 or 6 years ago when we first started showing up at some of these things that you guys were at like 700 members. So it almost feels like you've added 50% to your membership over the last few years.
Yes, I think it's 50% over the past 5 years, maybe. I remember when I joined CAPIO in 2012, 2011, it was 200 members. And then
Wow.
we're close to 1,100 right now. I think we were at 700. Another thing which we'll touch on later is our growth and attendance at our conferences, especially with COVID happening and these questions about, do we need to do a hybrid of in-person versus virtual? And we decided with San Diego to go full in-person again and not do the virtual hybrid. That was our highest attended conference at about 570. And we are currently at, I think, 567 registrations
For your upcoming
for the
annual conference.
So we're about to break that record again and hopefully get to 600. So yeah, we just keep growing, and that's been another thing that the board's been focused on, is how do we grow smart, not grow too fast, but make sure that we're always providing value to our almost 1,100 members.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that a second. I mean, talk about it from two perspectives, maybe. Why should a communicator join? And then if I'm a city manager or a county CAO or a general manager at a water district, why would I want my staff member who does comms, or multiple staff members who do comms, why would I want them to join CAPIO?
I mean, I think for a lot of reasons. One was what I was saying at the beginning of we are the state organization. I would even argue we're one of the best organizations in the country for helping people develop their communication skills in government. I think that being a member of CAPIO helps me in my position with Santa Barbara County in many ways. My former boss, who was our public works director, just retired, and we actually had a big conversation on the importance of joining associations. He was the president of CAC, which is California County Engineers, and the president of NACE, which is the National Association of County Engineers. And we were talking about it. For one, you meet people from other areas and you develop these relationships that help you grow in your career. Or sometimes you develop these relationships that help you get funding, and you learn from people in other jurisdictions. You learn how they deal with the same issues that we all deal with in these positions. And then getting involved, just not as a member, but in these leadership positions, help you grow outside of your comfort zone, help you become a better leader, a better practitioner in your field. I know for me, being president over the past year, I've got to put into practice some of my leadership values, which tested them. I also think being a member of CAPIO is inspiring. I get to see what other people do across the state, and being involved in government, I get to steal their ideas because it's all free. One of my favorite things about CAPIO is the EPIC Awards, and seeing those every year, because it inspires me to see how I can implement those best practices in what I do in Santa Barbara County.
Yeah, and agreed. Agreed on all those fronts. Particularly for local governments, just unlike private sector, which is generally more fiercely competitive, and not a lot of trade secrets. There's not a lot of trade secrets in local government, and even more so in communicators. I mean, we're shouting our programs to the hills and trying to publish them and get them out there. So they're very open source, so to speak, right? So it's kind of it's a unique opportunity and hugely advantageous for communicators to learn from and collaborate with one another and get practical, tactical ideas in sharing that. And we have the advantage in the work that I do that I get to participate in CAPIO, and then I also participate in TAMIO, which is the Texas group, and that group is also pretty active and pretty not as big as you guys yet. but they have a lot of government in Texas too, a lot of local government, more cities in Texas than California actually. And so it's interesting. I get to kind of compare and contrast, and both are very active groups. I do also just think it's interesting, and I'd love your comments on this. I certainly have seen, and Tripepi Smith has been a part of the growth story of communications in local government. And I feel like what's happened over the last 10 years, and 15 really, that I've been in this sector working on these issues, is that the impact of social media, the impact of digital in general on how cities get projects done has been significant, and that more and more communications can derail a project. So you can find yourself deep into a project, ready to go to market, bring it to the council. You bring it to the council or the board, and then social media takes over, pitchforks show up, problems arise, and all of a sudden the project's dead. And suddenly the agency is finding itself going, what the heck just happened? We thought we were good to go here, and it falls through their fingers. And meanwhile, hundreds of thousands of dollars in staff time, consultant time have disappeared when something dies. So I think that's partly what I've seen from the executive side, what's motivated a bigger interest in communications. So at the risk of having given away my perspective on that, would you concur with that, Lyle, or you got other perspectives on what you think has been driving such a growth industry, is I guess in one way to put it, around communications and government?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're hitting on like a bunch of huge topics right now that I love to nerd out on. Which I guess that's the first thing right there. I mean, when you're talking about growth, is government is important because communities are important, and we all want to see the places where we live be better. And with I think the decline in media, in journalism, newsrooms are losing reporters. The landscape is more diverse, and there's all these different channels, and it's harder to get your message out efficiently and effectively. And so I think the growth of government communicators is happening because we need good communications to get good things done. That was my message in the beginning, that's what public relations is. It's building relationships. It's not just posting something on social media. It's meeting with the people who have the pitchforks, so you can get to know each other, trust each other, work together, and find some common ground. And just to touch a little bit more on these kind of challenges that we're facing as communicators, I think one reason CAPIO is important is that we prepare members by staying ahead of the curve on these issues, finding experts to educate members on these issues, and then developing training and events where members can learn how to address these issues. I mean, it was just a year and a half ago that ChatGPT came out in November of 2022. And then by the time the conference came around in May of 2023, we had this session on AI that was like standing room only. Like I couldn't even get in the door to check it out. And then, as you know, earlier this year, John Bariloni from Tripepi Smith spoke at our State of CAPIO about AI, and then he gave a standalone presentation on it. And that's just one issue, but that's an example of where CAPIO, we're very mindful of what the big issues are so that we can respond to them, so that our members can learn about best practices and solutions, so that they can go out and then make their communities better. And again, I think that's why our field is growing, because it's so vital to our communities.
Yeah, certainly, especially for local government, the loss of local media coverage has created a vacuum of information. And I think government agencies are finding they have to maneuver to fill some of that vacuum to either address lack of information or misinformation or confusion that otherwise previously might have been addressed by those local papers. A friend of mine is the former city manager in Tucson, and he always tells me a great story how in the earlier days of his career, when he needed to get the word out in Tucson, Arizona, which is an isolated media market, right, as everybody knows where Tucson is, all he had to do was kind of send out an email to all the local, the 2 local papers and the 3 local TV affiliates and say, I'm going to have a press conference on the steps of City Hall at 4:00. Come down, check it out. and he'd go down and say something, and it would get out to the community, right? That was the simple execution pathway. That's not really the case anymore, either because those affiliates are dying. The media market has splintered into a million other outlets, and so it's a much more complex world. Let's turn. So CAPIO, we're talking about big not theoretical realities, but CAPIO recently adopted a new strategic plan. Can you give me kind of a high level overview of what that strategic plan is and what the vision is for CAPIO?
Sure. How long is this podcast?
Well, technically the internet goes forever, but my schedule is going to end here in 30 minutes.
Okay. Well, everyone can go out and read the plan. I don't know if you can provide a link, or you can visit our website to find it. But the research process highlighted two core priorities, which are our programs and membership, making sure that what we do is relevant, valuable, and responsive to our members. And then the organizational foundation. Are we being efficient and effective with all of our internal work? So the first thing we did was update our board members' duties so their objectives were clear. And the next step was just to say, okay, you know what to do, go and do it. And we'll check in every month on your progress to make sure we're hitting our marks. One thing I plan to do when I become past president in a month is to bring all of this into Smartsheet so we can track it, all of our plan. Part of that's because creating project management systems and Smartsheet is the type of thing I like to nerd out on. But we also just want to make sure that, we're staying on track and hitting our objectives. But some of the things we've achieved in the past few months include we created a new board position. This is a strategic partnerships and initiatives chair, and this position will manage our relationships with other associations like TAMIO that you mentioned. We're very fortunate that CAPIO past president Christine Brainerd will enter that role in May. We also created a new Rising Star Award. This award will honor a member who exhibits exceptional abilities in the first 5 years of their career. I don't think I can announce that yet, but you will find out at the conference. And then also with our strategic plan, I should just mention that a lot of CAPIO success is due to the engagement of our members. We're only as successful as the amount of engagement that we get through our members, through committees and being on the board and volunteering. So one thing I wanted to do was increase how many people run for the board. So we held a webinar earlier this year on how to run for the board, explain the time commitments, explain everything that goes into the positions. And this year we had 15 people run for 6 positions, which was the highest number of nominees we've had in, as far as I can remember. While this means we also had more members who didn't win an election, I hope that the experience of running and just getting out of your comfort zone encourages more members to join committees, get more involved in a leadership position.
So on that last point in particular, I really appreciate the desire to kind of improve governance by having more competition for seats. A lot of organizations have, I guess I'd say almost a Politburo of how they go about the process of getting new officers on the board and things like that, which I understand there's upsides to that too. And there's risk by bringing, unknown parties into the fold on some of the board governance. But on the other hand, it's also a healthy sign when there's competition for board seats and to be involved. And there's it's a good metric for understanding the level of engagement you have with your membership when you see that kind of thing, assuming it's not rooted in some controversy, right? If it's rooted in some political coup, like that's not really healthy for the organization in the long run. But if it's rooted in just enthusiasm for governance, I think that's a tremendous win.
Definitely.
Yeah. So we've danced around this a little bit, or we've hinted at, but I want to dive into it real quick because you have a big annual conference coming up. You just mentioned that there's going to be some announcements made there. This will be that's kind of the inflection exit point for you as president of CAPIO. Is that correct?
Yes. So we'll have our conference and we'll bring on our new board members and have the transition and start the next year.
All right. And then you get to go into the active sunset of doing some past president activities.
Yes.
So tell me about the conference. What's happening? It's going to be down in Indian Wells at the Renaissance. You already noted we are up to I think you said almost how many registered so far?
So we're at 557.
Okay.
560 is our record. So we're getting there.
Is it sold out?
I don't even know if we can sell out. I think it's not sold out.
Okay, so if somebody still wants to register, they can still
shoot a nice even number, but
my apologies, I just stepped on you with my comment there. So if somebody still wants to register, they could actually still register today and show up at the conference. It might be tied on hotel rooms, but they can still attend if they want.
Definitely. I do believe that the hotel room blocks are sold out. There are other hotels in the area, but no, registration is still open. So if you're watching this and haven't registered yet, please do so. We see you there.
And so, to be fair, we're recording this on April 12th, and this is probably by the time you're seeing this, it'll probably be late April, but there could still be spots open. So check it out is the first thing we would say is I'd hate to talk about how awesome this thing is and then say, psych, you don't get to go. So if there is opportunity, just visit the CAPIO website. Your website, by the way, is capio.org. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So that's pretty straightforward. What can people expect if they attend that conference?
Where do I start? So the conference is May 13th through 16th. As we just said, we're on track to kind of breaking the record for attendance. One thing I should mention is we rely heavily on sponsors like you, and we're up to $99,500 in sponsorships this year. So we want to thank all of our sponsors. If anyone does want to, sponsor $500 for pencils or something, so we can get to that 100,000 mark, give me a call. But with the conference, what you can look forward to, we have some great keynote speakers this year. Think Fast, Think Smarter author Matt Abrahams. We also have, she refers to herself as a courage igniter, Anne Bonny, and her keynote is titled Get Over It, Ignite Your Shift. The awards dinner is always great. The theme is Refresh at CAPIO 2024, your communications oasis. So I think that whole desert vibe in Indian Wells is going to be great. We're going to have pickleball. I've never played it, but I know people who do, and they all go crazy for it. So that should make people happy. Also, the T-shirts. We are giving out free T-shirts to all the attendees this year, which is something we've never done. There's always swag at conferences, but we like that we're taking our swag to the next level. We should also probably talk about the session topics that we're going to have, specifically the diversity. I think this is going to be the most diverse selection of topics we've ever had. We really wanted to cross as many sectors as we could using real life case studies. So we have presentations from school districts on shootings, presentations from fire departments, awareness campaigns on fentanyl, more on AI, more on inclusivity and DE&I. So, submitting to present at the conference is another competitive area, and I think our conference committee just did a great job at, this Herculean task of getting a really diverse program that addresses people on many different levels.
Yeah, so diversity of topics, and also it sounds like diversity of specific government type entities that are going to benefit water districts versus school districts versus cities versus counties. So also very helpful. And one consequence of growth is that you now have different constituencies you need to address. I'm sure part of your strategic plan contemplated how do we grow to address diverse audiences within our growing membership while not losing our core focus at the same time. That's always a challenge for organizations as they grow. And you always risk trying to be everything to everyone, and then sometimes you can lose your way, as I've just seen it happen in life. So, and how about you personally? What do you, other than getting to become a past president, which is always everybody's favorite job title, what are you most looking forward to with the annual conference, Lyle?
At the risk of repeating myself, because it is difficult to pick one thing, but it is the people. I think, as I said earlier, our jobs are difficult. For many of us, we're the only communicator in our department or division. And so you bear that load, on a day-to-day basis. But then you go to the conference and you're surrounded with people like you who work across the state. They deal with the same issues you deal with. They have the same struggles as you, and then you get to hang out with each other and learn from each other, and it helps you feel less alone. And all of that is empowering and comforting, and it helps us grow. So yeah, I think I just look forward to seeing the people, even though I admitted to being a partial introvert, just being able to see people and learn from them, and connect and build those relationships. I always come away from the conference feeling energized and feeling like I can tackle my job again.
Yeah. Similar sentiment. I get the same energy too. Thrilled to hear you're playing pickleball this year. I'm a pickleball guy. Enjoyed pickleball in my youth a lot because I happened to grow up in the place where it was invented. So I've been a pickleball guy for 30 plus years now of my life.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll save that story for a CAPIO conference together. But I've been around pickleball a long time. And Indian Wells, of course, full disclosure, they're a client city, but they don't, regardless of that, beautiful town, beautiful community. I'm really excited you guys are doing it. And actually, for me personally, I have back-to-back conferences at that hotel. So I actually check in on like Monday of that week for the conference, CAPIO, and I don't leave till the following Sunday because I have a conference immediately after CAPIO, and I'm just going to stay in my same room the whole time and just do both conferences. So I'm going to get to spend a lot of time in Indian Wells that week.
Nice, doing your Indian Wells residency.
That's right, 100%, which is not a bad place to do a residency.
No.
I'll also risk putting on my Tripepi Smith hat in the middle of this conversation and just say Tripepi Smith will commit to an additional $500 sponsorship to hit your 100,000 Lyle. So consider that mission accomplished. That's a good threshold. We'd be honored to help get there to that final leg of it on top of the other sponsorship that we already do with you guys. So I'm sure my market team is going to hear that and go, oh, okay, I guess we better make that happen.
Thank you for doing that. Tripepi Smith is already extremely generous, with your sponsorship. But that's great to hear that you're giving us the extra 500. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, CAPIO is a great organization. Staff there has been super supportive. I love the team of your staff you have supporting the organization. The board's always been super approachable for us. So the least we can do to be a partner in local government. That's always been a commitment from the early days of Tripepi Smith. So, but back to Public CEO. So. So conference going to wrap up, and then do you guys do other events throughout the rest of the year that we could at least talk about or highlight, or are there chapter events too that people can participate in?
Oh yes, let's see if I can list these all off. So after the conference, we have a bit of a dead time because this is our busiest time of the year right now. And actually, we did just hold 3 strategic planning workshops throughout the state with Scott Summerfield. Those are all great, all widely attended. Coming up in June, we have our Emergency Communications Summit. I believe that's in Sacramento towards the end of June. We will have our 2nd annual Leadership Summit in November of this year. That was a great event we held for the first time last year. So we'll be holding that again. And then in between, we'll be having our webinars and our mixers. And that was another part of our strategic plan is the state is so big. We have our 3 regions, but each of those regions is massive. So we really want to make sure that we have more in-person events, media tours, mixers, that type of thing. So members don't see each other just once or twice a year, but see each other more so they can continue to develop those relationships.
And right now you said the chapters are based on 3 zones in California, or the chapter's smaller than that?
3 zones, yeah. So there's Northern, which it's kind of divided weird by counties, but it's basically down to like Fresno, and then Southern is Fresno to Ventura County, and then everything south of that. And I will give out a shout out to Sonia Dosty. I shouldn't single out just one board member because they've all been stellar this year, but Central Region in particular, and I used to be the Central Region chair. It's really difficult because it's Ventura to Fresno, which is a long driving distance, and there's not really any major metropolitan areas in there. Like with Northern California, you have East Bay and Sacramento, and then south you have LA and San Diego. So we've really been pushing to get more events going on there, increase the membership there, and she's been doing a great job with. We had that strategic planning event there, and I think we had almost 40 people attend it, which I can't remember the last time we had an event of that size in Fresno. So again, more indicators of growth in the organization.
Yeah, Sonia's great. I had the pleasure of working with her in Fresno County on a redistricting process, and so spent a lot of time getting to collaborate with her. And she's a tremendous resource for the county there. Yeah. And sounds like she's a tremendous resource for CAPIO as well. So yay, Sonia. All right. So I guess anything else you want to get off your chest about CAPIO before I transition out here?
No, I think just to sum up, first off, thank you again for inviting me to talk with you. It's always a pleasure. And second, if you're considering joining CAPIO, please do so. Please reach out to me, visit the website, and we'd love to see you both as a CAPIO member and at the conference.
Awesome. And if folks want to get a hold of you, Lyle, how would they go about doing that?
My email is Lael Wageneck, LWAGENECK @countyofsb.org.
Awesome. All right. You can go right to the president team if you need to email him with questions or talk to him about membership. I'm sure he'd be thrilled to include you in that conversation. Definitely. And that's today's report. My thanks to Lyle for joining us. From the whole PublicCEO team and myself, Ryder Todd Smith, thank you for your time. We hope you learned something new and inspiring that will help you in your public service. Remember, PublicCEO has a daily newsletter that is free to those who sign up at PublicCEO.com. If you have feedback, questions, or guest suggestions for PublicCEO Report, please email editor@PublicCEO.com.